Hi, everybody, and welcome to a new series here in the Reconnection Arena. So, my name is Ali Moore, and this is where we come when we talk about all things relationships, relationships with ourselves and relationships with everything in the world around us. So, over the next few weeks, I am interviewing some fabulous guests who are coming in to share their own experiences of relationships, but also we're going to dive into some of those topics about social media and peer group and when things go wrong with relationships, and we're just going to hopefully have some really cool chats and just kind of share our own thoughts about the experiences we've had in our lives and the relationships that have gone along with that. So today my very first guest is the fabulous Suzie Foster, so welcome.
Oh, thank you. This is very exciting. I feel very privileged.
Thank you very much. No, you're very welcome. We've had quite a few one-to-ones actually, and we've always run out of time. So we're going to be chatting, right? This is going to be a good conversation. So
Totally.
Suzie, tell the viewers a bit about yourself and kind of where you are now with things.
Okay. So my name's Suzie. I'm 39 and I live in Bicester in Oxfordshire. I've got two small children who are both at childcare right now, and they will be invading at some point later on this afternoon. And yeah, at the moment, like now, I am an executive leader for Tropic Skincare. And if you'd have told me that a few years ago, I would have just, laughed in your face, basically, Ali, I'm afraid. Because I just would have thought that's just not me. That's not anything that I would have done. But actually, I was thinking about it before I came on today, that actually it's a sort of a real, it makes total sense to me now in terms of my relationship with myself. And I've found this thing that I'm now good at, and I probably struggled with that for a long time. So I live in Oxfordshire now, but I grew up in Essex. The eldest of four children, so I was always the bossy one, the emotional one, the one that did everything first, bit more rebellious, but didn't get away with a lot of things. And I think that kind of definitely molded some of the ways in my life, I suppose, about kind of putting pressure on myself and all of those things. So I mean, I don't know how much you want me to say right now, but via kind of school, I did the whole kind of school, university, job. I went into HR. I did a human resources degree, so I went into a job that basically was exactly what my degree was supposed to be, So did an HR degree, went into an HR job. And after about 11 or 12 years, I realised that wasn't for me, through all sorts of different, and to be honest, most of the time it was because of relationships, actually. Relationships with people in the businesses that I worked in. Ultimately, though, it just wasn't the job for me. And then I found Tropic, and the rest is history, really. I then had children, and it all kind of fitted in quite nicely, and was, sort of part of that flexible working kind of ideal that we have, and things like that. And it's just kind of worked out quite nicely, really. So that's in a nutshell.
Brilliant. It's interesting though, because we've led similar parallel lives as we've sort of dived into it. We've both come into our own businesses from the corporate world. But the one bit I want to take you back, because you're right, actually. Lots of decisions that people make, I'm learning more and more, are all about the relationships, how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about how others around us are treating us and how that's all going. And we kind of dived into those teenage years when we were having our catch up last week. And you, like me, I think, felt a little bit on the outskirts in those teenage years, never quite fitting in from one group to another group, sort
Yeah.
of just kind of trying to find our feet.
Yeah.
And just, tell us a bit about that, and tell us a bit about your views now on what it must be like, because we spoke then also about social media, which
Mm,
wasn't there when when
mm.
we were going through those
Yeah.
awful teenage years. We didn't have that. But yeah, so take us back there.
So I would be fully happy and open to say that I did not enjoy being a teenager.
Mm,
Um, it was always full of pressure, stress. Yeah, not feeling like I was really fitting into one group of people. So I think we said both. Well, I think you said it first when we spoke, but I wasn't like, what we called sad. I wasn't like the sad group. Do you know what I mean? I feel really awful saying that now,
no,
but
but that's what teenagers are, right? You get grouped. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
absolutely.
So I wasn't kind of in that camp, but I
Yeah,
also wasn't in the, sporty, cool group either.
yeah.
I was in the, I liked music, so I used to go in, like Blur and my kind of childhood, um, and Pulp and Oasis and that kind of thing. So I was like all into like the Britpop kind of time, and music and stuff. And so it was that group of people. We were like kind of cool, but not really. It was like
Mhm.
because we didn't like sport. Basically, it was like sport cool, music kind of coolish, but not really. Do you know what I mean? So we were kind of always in the middle.
Yeah,
And but I did have friends from the whole spectrum of people. So, and I think this goes to show what it's like for me now as well. I don't have like that one group of girly friends. I mean, actually, I probably do now through Tropic, actually, funnily, and networking and things like that. But back in the day, I did have, some best friends, but I talked to everybody.
yeah.
And I think that was good. I really liked that. And I really liked to have like those different kind of fluid
Mhm.
relationships, I suppose. But I never felt like I was fully, you know, uh, part of any of them really,
Yeah.
apart from my like real close best friends. And so, yeah, I just felt like I was always under pressure for, looking a certain way, and I was not really that bothered about makeup. I liked it, but I didn't really know how to do it. And my mum was never bothered about any of that. Whereas
Mhm.
I had more of an interest, but my mum didn't. So I never got any of that, like, here's how to put your makeup on or
Right.
any of that. So, and like, it's only really now that I'm kind of thinking, maybe that's what I should have had, or not that there was anything wrong with the parenting at all, but it was, I don't know, like I just didn't get the stuff that perhaps, like, my mum's not into bags or shoes or like anything like that. She hates shopping. And my sister is like that, but I'm much more kind of like, I'm a bit more girly than perhaps I thought I was, because no one ever, anyway, I don't quite know where I'm going with that one, but
But
it's
it's
like
this, but it's this whole thing we have, isn't it, in those teenage years of trying to fit in,
yeah,
and it's still, it's just part of that, going through that adolescent stage where you really want your own identity, don't you? But more than
exactly.
anything, you want to fit into a group.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you are kind of thinking about, would this have been better? Would I,
yeah,
should I be doing this? And
yeah,
it's interesting that even now, those are the things still going through your mind.
yeah. Oh,
What would have
yeah,
allowed me to have been
yeah,
in this group,
definitely.
more.
Yeah,
And obviously
definitely.
back then, when you said to me when you came home, all those pressures, you could shut the door on them, couldn't you? We had that relief.
Completely. I don't know how I would behave, react, deal with being a teenager these days with
Yeah,
social media. I
yeah,
just think social media, it's bad enough for us as adults where we're actually a little bit more thick-skinned, although not everyone is like that, but I've certainly got more of a thick
mhm,
skin now, and um, but yeah, I think as a teenager or even younger, I guess, um, coming home now isn't the same as it used to be for me, where I'd be like, right, school's done, I can just close the door on that and come home and have like my home life. And don't get me wrong, I still like went out with friends, and we actually picked up the phone and used to speak to each other on the
I
phone,
remember that. Yeah.
wrote letters to each other in the summer holidays and things
Yeah.
like that. I was just thinking about it the other day.
Went and called for each other, but all
Yeah.
of those things, it's a whole new world now.
And it's like everyone is there all the time, aren't they? So you know, just the thought of having the images there that you know, oh, this is what this person's wearing, or this is what this person should be, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. I mean, I've put my hair in a middle parting because apparently you shouldn't have a side parting these days. And I'm like, I'm even doing it at 39. So God knows what I would have been doing at 15. Actually, it's more because I just like to change my hair around. But anyway.
I have to avoid the middle parting because the roots are just,
do you know what?
shape, right?
The roots were bad. Side parting, middle parting, no parting. There's no getting away with it. But yeah, I just think that you wouldn't be able to switch off at all, and they would just be there all of the time. And so I never got I wouldn't say that I got bullied as such. However, now, you know, when you think about it, it's not just about physical bullying, is it? There's all the emotional and the mental side of things. And that definitely happened to me when I was younger. And it's almost those things that you can't even really put your finger on, actually. You just know that there was something not right, and that's why you got kind of upset about things or whatever. But now, you know, people can hide behind a keyboard and do it, you know, and you can't get away from it. So yeah, I think it would have definitely been a very different ball game for me. It might not have bothered me at all, who knows? But I just know that if social media had been around at that point, I think, yeah, it would have been really, really hard, much harder than I think it was then.
I mean, you know, when I've spoken to groups of girls, you know, when we've gone out and done talks for the foundation, and, you know, you talk about, you know, the online presence, and it's not even the photographs, it's the fact that, you know, so you're talking about fitting into the right physical groups. They're having to be on the right chat rooms, they're having to be, you know, to find out what's going on, to get invited, you know, and you know, it's always struck me that when I talked to a certain group of girls about trolling, you know, and social media, their view was, you know, we don't just block it, you know, you can't block people, because, you know, if I got, you know, trolled or whatever on, you know, I would that's what the unfriend button is for, right? Absolutely. That's what the block button is for, yeah? That's it, right? But with our school culture, it's generally people that they're going to have contact with again. So there's still that need for them to want to maintain some kind of relationship. So even though they might be receiving these messages or these kind of, you know, even if they might not be outright bullying, but these barbed messages, these things that they really want to distance themselves from, the answer isn't to simply come off of whatever platform they're on, because then they feel completely ostracized, you know, from the group. So all of this is kind of,
well, it's like my husband has decided that in the last sort of few weeks that Facebook and Instagram, he's just taken them off his phone and he's deleted them because he was just spending too long scrolling and all of that kind of stuff. For me, the only real reason I use social media genuinely is for work. But then obviously by doing that, you then get sucked into buying stuff and, you know, looking at, you know, what new small businesses there are out there and things like that. So it isn't just business, but that's the main reason, I suppose, that I use it. And it's easy for us to do that, but it's not the same when you're younger and that is your social activity, especially in the last 12 months. I mean, that's like the only way that people have been able to contact each other, isn't it? And
absolutely, I mean it has, you know, been a savior. I've said this before, you know, I'm not against it. And and it's really allowed us to stay in contact. But it is interesting to reflect on that relationship. So I want to bring you a little bit further up. So you said, you know, you realized things weren't for you, and it was mainly about relationships, you know, of the people around you, which is often the way. So what kind of, you know, what kind of experiences did you have there that impacted you?
So it's easy to say it now, I suppose, but I just do not fit into a corporate culture, really. I can do it for a little bit and maybe for about a year and all of that. And then I start getting kind of a bit, basically kind of like itchy feet, really, because I like to question things. I like to, and not because I want to be challenging, it's more like I like to know why. I am this person that says, but why? But why? So I have to kind of hold my breath when my 3.5-year-old is asking me why every 10 seconds, because I'm like, no, that's like you. So yeah, I'm just quite inquisitive. I'm really nosy, basically. And I like to know why people are doing things. And it's not because I don't think that it's right. I just want to know why. Okay, so we've got this process. So with HR, for example, there are tons and tons of processes.
Yeah.
Okay, so why do we do that process? It's just because that's what we've always done. And that used to wind me up, because I'd be like, but I'm not sure if that's the best way. How about we do it like this? Oh no, we don't want to do it like that. We don't do it like this. And that just, oh my word, it just used to wind me up, and I couldn't. And then I would just start almost switching off, really, from the culture and the just the general organization. To be honest, I'd just be thinking, well, this isn't for me. I found that there's a lot of politics, a lot of game playing, that it's just not me. I always quite kind of pride myself, I suppose, in being quite a fair person. I like things to be fair for everybody. I don't necessarily mean, you know, everyone's equal or all of those things. Do you know what I mean? Like, I believe in equality, but I know that people are different and people have different needs, basically. I just want things to be fair for people, so people have the same opportunities. And I feel really strongly about that. And I don't think I ever really realised that that's what it was. But when you're in an HR role, I thought I was going to be there for the employee, for the, you know, to kind of make the employees have a better life at the organisation. And it ends up, to be honest, about the business.
Yeah.
Which is also not a bad thing, because of course, you know, you want to be there to support the business as well. But there was just a real disparity for me in so many of my roles, where it was, you know, you just couldn't question anything. You couldn't challenge anything, even if you were trying to be positive. Yeah, people just didn't really like it. So so I was like, so what am I going to do? You know, is this just going to be me for the rest of my life? You know. So when I decided to kind of turn my back on all of that, I went and got an admin job that was, you know, very much entry level, go in at 9 o'clock, close the door at 5 o'clock, not worry about my phone being called at 10 o'clock at night or emails at the weekend or anything like that.
Yeah.
But even that there was still that kind of, I don't know, there was like just seeing politics for me, you know, even though it wasn't always me. I mean, there were a few things that I probably challenged, but it was more about seeing what was going on around me. And I was like, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with the fact that these people are really unhappy.
I think you get to that point, don't you? So again, you know, people ask me, why did I leave my corporate role? And there was lots and lots of reasons. But I think, you know, I have to be honest and say one of the reasons was I got to the stage where I don't think I played well with others in the corporate environment. I was, you know, I got quite angry about things, and because that relation, you start to see the impact it's having on you, and you start to see the impact around you, don't
Yeah,
you? So
definitely,
so now
definitely.
you're here in the free world, as I call it, where we kind of own our own destinies and things like that. But how would you describe your relationship with yourself now, thinking back on those teenage years when you didn't feel you really fitted in and trying to like again fit in into that corporate,
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're meant to do, right? You do a degree,
Mm,
then you go into that corporate
yeah,
world, you toe the line, you know, this, that, and
yeah,
the other. And
yeah.
now you've busted out of that. So how do you feel about yourself now?
Um, I'm definitely not completely away from those pressures and stresses because that's probably also just the person that I am.
Yeah.
Um, but weirdly, I'm quite an anxious person. So I'm quite an anxious person just in general. But I've definitely been less anxious since I don't work for anybody else.
Yeah.
Since now I am in control, like you say, of your own destiny, but just in
Mm.
general, of like
Mhm.
control of my timetable. I can do whatever I want, basically, to be honest. If I don't want to work, I don't. I mean, I always will because I've also realized that I do want to work really hard because I think sometimes I used to think, "Oh, am I just like really lazy? Is this not,
Yeah.
am I just not a work person?" I don't know what it was. It's very strange. But I realize now that if it's my goal, if it's something I want to achieve in my control, then I will work hard for it. I
Mm.
think in when I was working in an organization, it would be their goals really. They talk about personal development, but really it was personal development in order for me to work better for them.
Yes, of course.
And that's fine, but it didn't give me that satisfaction. So now I know that I'm in control of what I'm doing. So I feel way less anxious. I don't have the pressure that and stress of am I doing a good job, unless it's stuff that I put on myself because I just naturally will do that. But that's because I want to achieve stuff. Um, and yeah, I think it's just been realizing that you can take a risk as well without, everything getting ruined, or like the world ending. It's like actually take a risk because you want to do something that you're passionate about. It will be okay. It really, and it's one of those things where I try and do a lot of gratitude journaling and
Hmm.
uh, affirmations and things like that, which a couple of years ago I would have thought, oh my God, really? But it really, really works. It does work because it's all about what, if you're thinking positively, positive things will happen. And it really does work like that, or it has worked like that for me. And I think, in the old days of me being in the corporate world, I just feel really negative all of the time. And so not like negative things happen to me, but things just end up just feeling
You see it
like
that way, don't you? So if you're
yeah,
in that negative vibe, then you're
exactly.
looking for those
You're
negative
looking for
things.
negatives.
Absolutely. So, people will say to me, oh, positive thinking. And I'm not one of these that says if you just think positively, everything will be fine. The
Yeah,
therapist in me just balks at that. It's like, sometimes it
yeah,
takes more than that. But I
exactly.
do exactly strongly believe that when your mindset is negative, you're seeing negative things. And when your mindset can be more positive, you
Yeah,
start to see the more
exactly.
positive things. And nothing else may have changed. Same can be the same sort of landscape, but you're noticing different
Well,
things.
I only very recently I heard someone talking about manifesting. So like manifesting, like law of attraction and all of those
Yeah.
things. And it's one of those things where if you go to buy a car and you go and buy a red, I don't know, I can't even think of names of cars, a red Ford. Um, and then you haven't seen any of those before, and then all of a sudden you've bought it, and then you just see the
Yeah.
same car over and over again. It's because it's in your head, it's in
Right.
your subconscious. And that's exactly this, and that really resonated with me. I was like, oh yeah, that happens, doesn't it? And why is it happening? It's because you're thinking about it all the time. So if you're thinking positively, positive things will happen. And it's because you act on those positive things. So that's the thing, isn't it? With the secret, the secret and the law of attraction, it's not just about sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
I'm thinking positively, let things happen to me. That's
Right.
not the case. It's the fact that you're thinking positively will make you do positive actions, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. It will make you act positively.
You're aware of the positive opportunities, and then you're going to go and take. Yeah, that's the key. I love that, because that again makes me, when people say, but I've been trying to manifest this and bring it in. It's like, what have you actually done though?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah?
You've got to do some work to get those,
Yeah, you've got to do some work.
things. Yeah,
So
exactly.
Suzie, it's been lovely to chat with you. We can always chat for ages.
I know.
So if you are watching this, if you look in the comments, you'll see the best way to get in contact with Suzie. So you can find out all about her and her lovely tropics that she does. It's fabulous lipstick, by the way, that you are
Thank you.
wearing. And if you have anything around relationships that you want to share with us, then get in touch, because I'd love to get you on as a guest. Any comments that you want, relationships with self and relationships with others. We're going to be diving into all sorts of things. We're going to be looking at divorce, we're going to be looking at breakups, but we're also going to be looking at nurturing relationships. And of course, as we've started with, the most important, the relationship with yourself. So Suzie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Ali.
Take care, everybody, and we'll see you again here in the relationship arena.